Hello everyone. This is just a quick video. I want to share some thoughts with you about some things I've been mulling over while doing research for the book. And I've recently been getting into the whole after flood events and just what exactly brought the Nephilim back into the world. Obviously there's a few theories about that. There's the second incursion theory, which includes angels coming back after the flood and mating with human women again to create the Nephilim. This whole theory is based on the aspect of the phrase in Genesis 6 where it says there were giants in the earth in those days and after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men. So they believe that those days implies before the flood and after that implies after the flood. However, there's plenty of people who disagree with that for numerous reasons. And I was watching Rob Skiba's take on the matter to kind of get a catch-up reminder on what his theory was on the whole situation. And he basically says the second incursion theory is probably unlikely because the angels who witnessed the punishment for the angels who did mate with human women saw that the punishment was so severe there's absolutely no chance whatsoever that any angel would dare do that again. It showed that Michael witnessed the whole thing and basically said, whoa, that was brutal. I'm literally shaking, you know. So the Archangel Michael was shaking at the vision he had seen, witnessing the punishment these angels had to suffer. You know, these angels had to basically watch their own children, the Nephilim, and you know, they were described as their beloved ones, kill each other in brutal battles, you know. So that's one reason why the second incursion theory is probably highly unlikely. And also it never actually says anywhere that the angels did come down again and do that anywhere else. And considering the Book of Enoch has so much information talking about, you know, the angels that came down and mated with human women, why wouldn't they mention it again after the flood and give more detail there either? It just makes sense not to put detail into that if it did happen. So there's two reasons there why it was highly unlikely. And the third reason is that the after that's described in Genesis, it may not refer to after the flood. What it probably refers to, and this is supported by the Book of Jubilees, where it also uses the phrase after that again, but the after that it's describing is the after event of the Nephilim killing each other. So once the Nephilim killed each other within 500 years, and there was a period of time before the flood, and that's the after that period. And that period of time was when mankind was genetically engineering everything, mixing the kinds together, mixing animals together, mixing themselves with animals, creating hybrids of all kinds, human and animal. And that's what got me thinking about something interesting, and I kind of went off a few random rabbit holes that got me to this point, but I saw a meme, and it was on some Facebook group I'm a part of, and it was basically Seth MacFarlane talking about how God thinks eating shellfish is an abomination, and then he mentioned something about gay people and then equated the two together to make some kind of funny observation about how ridiculous God is with his rules, whatever it was. And I was thinking about that prospect, and I was thinking about this whole time before the flood where genetic manipulation was going on. You know, and we're thinking about how the Nephilim came to be after the flood. And if it wasn't angels coming back again, it's possible. Another theory is, you know, we're not talking about the whole the line of Ham, you know, the sons of Noah having corrupted DNA still, and the wives of these sons also having corrupted DNA that possibly brought the giant gene back. That's another theory. But what if, you know, some Nephilim did survive the flood? And these Nephilim aren't the giants of the original giants, but these are the genetically engineered people, a part of the all corrupted flesh people just before the flood, you know. And when it says all flesh is corrupted, that also means technically the marine life as well. Everything in the sea was corrupted and genetically engineered and messed with. And it makes you think, you know, the things in the sea probably would have survived the flood. It says everything in the dry land was destroyed, and on the surface of the land was destroyed. It doesn't mention anything about things above the land or under the ground or in the sea. You know, they probably survived. And I know this is a contentious thing to say because it seems pretty clear that Noah was the only survivor according to the Bible, but I think you could interpret it and square this by saying Noah was the only human survivor and was the only human who repopulated humanity, you know, back into the earth. Because the thing is, once you corrupt the vessel of God, it can no longer house the Holy Spirit, and that was probably why a lot of this corruption was going on. And if it can't house the Holy Spirit, then it's probably more compatible for Nephilim spirits, demon spirits. And if the Nephilim had just fully killed themselves, wiped themselves out, they were now disembodied demons wandering the earth in the dry places in the fractal matrix, shall we say. And this genetic engineering attempt immediately after their death was probably an attempt at creating vessels in which the Nephilim could return to the world back into. And maybe some of these Nephilim survived in these new bodies, these new genetically engineered bodies that were adapted for them. So it's possible that things like mermaids, half human, half fish things, or humans with gills may have survived in the water to the other side, and it's possible that's how giants made it into the post-flood world through the land of Canaan, you know, and all that sort of stuff. There's many theories and there's many ideas. I'm not here to say which is the truth, but I've just been thinking about it. And back to this whole point about, you know, you can't eat shellfish. And it just seems like such a strange rule, doesn't it? It's so arbitrary. And you can go off the idea of, you know, shellfish are bottom feeders, they're dirty animals, they feed off the crap of other animals, and therefore it's not healthy to eat them and all. You can go off all of that, but I've been watching videos randomly, they've been coming up my feed about things like mantis shrimp, for example, and just sea life animals, hard-shelled animals. And it says in the Bible, you know, in Leviticus, anything that is without a fin or scales is an abomination to God. But all these things with like outer shells and claws and things like lobsters, crabs, shrimps, octopuses would be a good example. They don't have scales either, and they're very psychedelic, colourful, intelligent, bizarre looking monsters, you know what I mean? You've got all these psychedelic animals in the sea, and what if they are just the remnants of this genetic engineering? You know, these crazy, vicious ones, these sharp-toothed things, you know. Things like sharks don't have scales, though they do have fins, you know. But things like crabs and shellfish, when you actually look at them, they are monsters. They are truly alien-looking beings, and they are vicious. They are brutal. If you look at what a mantis shrimp can do, you know, its punch is like a bullet, and it heats up hotter than the sun, apparently, because of the force and the speed. It's 1,500 newtons or something like that, and it can kill its prey instantly with a knock. It doesn't even have to touch it to kill it. It has to be nearby to kill it. And they're fast and they're trippy animals, and they're vicious animals. Shrimps, when they grow to full size, just grab fish and eat them like nothing. They're just killing machines, you know. And it's just trippy, you know. The sea life is terrifying when you get to the deepest, darkest depths of the ocean as well, which we can't even explore. So only God knows what truly is down there, you know. It just makes you think. It just makes you think, because it said during the time, you know, there was nothing but violence in the earth during this time before the flood. It was just bloody and awful and vicious, and there were monsters everywhere, just tearing things apart, destroying everything, and all of God's original creation was just corrupt. It was gone, you know. And Rob Skiba speculated things like dinosaurs and giant sharp-toothed reptiles were creations of this genetic engineering. And you know, most of God's original creatures, the ones that were saved on the ark, the last of their kinds probably, are more in tune with the earth and have a place and have an order, a natural order with things. But these other beasts were just destroying that order and disrupting the ecosystems and the food chains perfectly, just annihilating everything, you know. And it's just interesting food for thought, this whole, why this arbitrary rule that you can't eat shellfish? You know, what if, just speculation even, what if it's because they aren't meant to be here? What if they truly are an abomination to the Lord because they are genetically engineered monsters created during this time before the flood, and they just survived the flood? And what if shellfish never were supposed to originally be there? You know, this is if you go off the biblical narrative, you know. I know people say out there, oh, well, they are millions of years of evolution in production, all that sort of stuff. But I'm just going to imagine for a moment that's not the case. You know, just for this for this theory or this argument from a biblical perspective. So it's just interesting. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna go take my car in for some repairs. My brake pads are squeaking, but thanks for listening, and as always, God bless.